It was a cold and dreary morning, the type that seemed to bite at your bones and sink into your soul. The streets of Los Angeles were bustling with traffic, but Amelia, a 15-year-old girl with tangled hair and clothes that hung off her thin frame, walked unnoticed among the crowds. Her bare feet were covered in cuts from walking too much, but there was no time to rest. The only thought on her mind was survival. Amelia had never known a life of comfort. Her father had abandoned them when she was young, and her mother had died of illness 2 years ago. Since then, she had been living on the streets, surviving off whatever she could find. Mostly scraps from fast food restaurants and the occasional handout from kind strangers that as she trudged down the sidewalk, her stomach growling in hunger, she spotted a familiar sight, a line of people waiting outside a cafe. There was food inside and a warmth that called to her, but she had no money. She looked down at her dirty hands, clenching them into fists, wishing for a chance. Just a chance to eat something decent. Then, her gaze wandered across the street and settled on a black Tesla Model S, parked by the curb. The tinted windows reflected the sunlight, and she knew immediately that it belonged to someone important. Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur, was in town for a meeting. She had read about him in the news. He was known for changing the world, for being a visionary, a genius. Amelia had always been fascinated by people like him, people who seemed to have it all. She envied their lives. The thought crossed her mind. What would it be like to live in a world of endless possibilities? But now, standing in front of the cafe, cold and hungry, a wave of desperation swept over her. She had heard about Musk's generosity before. Could he help her? Could he see her for what she truly was, a lost soul just trying to survive? She walked over to the Tesla, swallowed her pride, and knocked lightly on the window. The sound echoed in the quiet street. A moment of hesitation followed. Amelia wondered if she had made a mistake, but then the window rolled down. Inside the car was a man she recognized, Elon Musk himself. He looked tired, but his eyes remained sharp. The sleek car hummed quietly, and for a moment, the entire world seemed to stop. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice kind but wearied that Amelia's heart raced. She hadn't planned what to say. She just needed to say something. "Sir," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm hungry. I haven't eaten in days. Could you please spare me something to eat?" There was a brief silence. Elon Musk looked at her with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. But before he could respond, Amelia quickly added, "I know it's a lot to ask, but I just need a meal. Please." Elon's expression softened, but he said nothing. Instead, he unlocked the door and gestured for her to get inside. "Come on," he said, "let's go get you something to eat." One day, while at a fundraising event, Amelia received an unexpected message. It was from the homeless shelter where she had spent her first few nights when she had nowhere to go. "I wanted to let you know," the message read, "that one of the young women who had been living here for the past year has just signed her first lease on an apartment. She's starting her new job tomorrow, and she wanted to thank you." She said, "Amelia showed me that I could have a future." Tears welled in Amelia's eyes as she read the message. She immediately texted the woman back, sending her congratulations and words of encouragement. That as she put her phone down, Elon appeared beside her. "What's going on?" he asked, noticing the tears in her eyes. Amelia smiled, looking up at him. "Another life changed," she said, her voice filled with pride and gratitude. "Another life that got the chance it deserved." Elon smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You've done something incredible, Amelia. You've not only changed lives, you've changed the narrative around what's possible. And that's a legacy that will last forever." Amelia looked out across the room, where people were laughing, talking, and celebrating the success of the evening. She realized that this was just the beginning. The world was filled with people like her. People who had been overlooked, forgotten, and dismissed. But if she could give them hope, if she could help them see their worth, then they could change the world too. She had found her purpose. And she knew, without a doubt, that it was the most important thing she had ever done. Amelia's journey had come full circle. What began as a single act of kindness from a billionaire had sparked a movement that touched thousands of lives. From a homeless girl asking for food to a powerful advocate for change, Amelia had discovered a truth she never could have imagined. The power to change the world was not in wealth or status, but in the compassion and resilience of the human spirit. Her story was no longer just her own. It belonged to everyone who had ever been told they were not enough, everyone who had ever believed their past would define their future. Amelia had proven that no matter how dark the road may seem, there was always light waiting at the end. And sometimes, that light could come from the most unexpected places. As she stood at the forefront of her new life, Amelia reflected on the journey. The struggle, the pain, the moments of doubt, they had all shaped her into the person she had become. But more than that, they had shaped the world around her. She had become a living testament to the power of hope, and she knew that her story would continue to inspire for generations to come. In the end, Amelia had learned that it was never about the destination. It was about the journey. And along the way, she had found her true purpose: to help others find their way, to remind them that they were worthy, and to show them that with hope and determination, anything was possible. As the years passed, her legacy grew, and the impact of her work rippled through communities across the globe. The initiative she had started flourished, and thousands of lives were transformed, one person at a time. Amelia's story was not just a chapter in a book. It was a movement, a beacon of hope for the lost and forgotten, a reminder that every life, no matter how broken, deserved a chance to rebuild and thrive. And for Amelia, that was enough. She had found her purpose. She had found her calling. And in doing so, she had changed the world. Amelia hesitated for a moment, unsure if this was truly happening. She had spent so long fending for herself on the streets that the idea of someone, especially someone as famous as Elon Musk, offering help was foreign. But there was no time to second-guess it. She slid into the passenger seat of the Tesla, the leather feeling warm and soft beneath her cold skin. Elon Musk started the car, and as it hummed to life, they drove away from the hustle and bustle of the city streets. Amelia looked out the window, watching the world pass by in a blur. She couldn't help but feel out of place. Here she was, a girl who had spent months on the streets, sitting beside one of the most powerful men in the world. It felt like a dream. They arrived at a fancy restaurant a few blocks away, a place that Amelia could never afford, not even if she worked for years. As they entered, the staff recognized Elon immediately, offering him a respectful nod. He waved them off with a friendly gesture and led Amelia to a quiet corner. As they sat down, a waiter brought over the menu, but Elon stopped him with a wave of his hand. "Just bring us some food, something simple," he said. The waiter nodded and hurried off. Amelia, who had grown used to eating whatever scraps she could find, stared at the table. She had never seen anything like this. The fresh flowers in the vase, the soft ambient lighting, the polished silverware, it was all so alien to her. Elon smiled at her. "Don't worry," he said, his voice warm but sincere. "I've been in tough spots too. It's okay to let someone help you." For the first time in years, Amelia felt something other than hunger and fear. Gratitude. She hadn't realized how much she had craved kindness. A simple act of compassion was something she had almost forgotten existed. The waiter returned with a bowl of hot soup, a freshly baked bread roll, and a side salad. Amelia's eyes widened. She had never seen such delicious food before. The smell was intoxicating. Her stomach rumbled in anticipation. As she began to eat, Elon watched her carefully. His gaze wasn't judgmental, but full of curiosity. Amelia couldn't help but feel embarrassed as she ate too quickly, as though she might never have the chance to eat again. "Take your time," Elon said, offering her a gentle smile. "There's no rush." Amelia looked up at him, her hands trembling slightly as she put down her spoon. "Thank you. I don't know how to thank you enough." Elon leaned back in his chair, his eyes soft. "You don't need to thank me. I've seen a lot in my life, and helping others is one of the most important things we can do. Sometimes a small act of kindness can change everything." Amelia looked at him, wondering if he truly understood what it felt like to be in her shoes. To be alone, to have to fight for every meal, to not know where your next night's shelter would be. But she realized as she watched his kind eyes that maybe he did understand more than she thought. As the meal continued, they spoke more. Elon asked her about her life, and Amelia shared bits and pieces of her story. She told him about her mother, how they had lived in a small apartment before the rent became too much, about how she had found herself alone when her mother died. "I never thought I would be here," she said quietly, pushing a piece of bread around on her plate. "I never thought I would end up on the streets. But here I am." Elon's expression softened. "It happens. Life doesn't always turn out the way we expect, but it's how we rise from it that matters." He paused for a moment, then added, "You're stronger than you think." As the meal came to an end, Amelia felt a strange sense of peace wash over her. It wasn't just the full stomach or the warmth of the restaurant that made her feel this way. It was the conversation with Elon. He had spoken to her like she was a person, not someone invisible or less important, like so many others had treated her on the streets. When the waiter cleared their plates, Elon looked at Amelia with a thoughtful expression. "I'm glad we met," he said, his tone more serious now. "I can tell that you're capable of a lot more than you might think." Amelia shifted uncomfortably in her seat. The weight of his words felt like a challenge, something she didn't feel ready to face just yet. "I don't know. I've never had a chance to do anything else," she said softly. "I never had the opportunity to dream, to see what I could be." Elon leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "That's exactly why you need to have a chance. Everyone deserves that chance, no matter where they come from or how difficult life has been." There was a long silence between them. The clinking of silverware and murmurs from other diners filled the air, but Amelia only focused on Elon's words. Everyone deserves a chance. Amelia hadn't thought about that before. She had always believed her life was already written, that she was just a chapter in someone else's story, one of struggle, of being overlooked, of never getting a second glance. Elon continued, "I want you to have a different life, Amelia. You have potential, even if you can't see it yet." Amelia felt a lump form in her throat, the weight of his words pressing down on her. She wasn't used to hearing this kind of encouragement, especially from someone like him. She had come to him for food, for a moment of relief from hunger. But here he was offering her something far more valuable. He was offering her hope. "I don't know what I can do," she whispered, her voice shaky. "I've only ever known how to survive." Elon smiled gently, but there was a fire in his eyes, one of belief and conviction. "Then let me help you. You don't have to figure everything out alone. Sometimes the first step is just knowing that there's more to life than surviving." He pulled out his phone and tapped a few keys. "I want you to come work for me." "Not right now," he clarified quickly, seeing the confusion on her face. "But when you're ready, I want to help you learn, to give you the tools to change your life. And I'll be there every step of the way." Amelia's heart skipped a beat. She felt a sudden rush of emotion, so intense that it almost overwhelmed her. A job? With Elon Musk? The thought felt unbelievable, like something out of a dream. She had no formal education, no skills that she thought anyone would value. She was just a girl who had learned to survive. Elon continued, his voice calm but resolute. "You'll need to work hard, but I believe you can do it. You don't have to stay on the streets. You can become whoever you want to be." Amelia couldn't speak at first. She just stared at him, the tears threatening to spill over, but somehow held in check. It was as if her entire life had been a series of missteps. But here, in this moment, she could see a way forward, a way out of the darkness that had surrounded her for so long. Why are you helping me?" she asked quietly, the question escaping her lips before she could stop it. Elon smiled softly. "Because sometimes a little bit of faith in someone can change everything. And I think you're worth the risk." The next few days were a blur for Amelia. She had spent so many years just trying to survive, fighting through each day as it came, that the thought of having a new beginning seemed foreign. But Elon's words stayed with her, repeating in her mind like a mantra. "You're worth the risk." And for the first time in ages, she felt a flicker of hope. Elon had arranged for her to stay at one of his properties for the time being, a small but comfortable apartment. It wasn't much, but it was more than she had ever had. She had her own space, a bed, and a safe place to call home. It was surreal, and for the first time in a long time, she slept soundly without the usual fear and anxiety that came with being homeless. The next week, Elon invited her to meet with his team at one of his companies. It was intimidating at first, walking into a high-rise building filled with well-dressed professionals. But Elon had made sure to ease her in slowly. He had asked the team to treat her with kindness and respect, and they did. It was clear that they saw something in her, a potential that she hadn't yet recognized in herself. Over the next few months, Amelia began to learn. She worked alongside Elon's team, assisting with small tasks at first. She was eager to prove herself, to show that she wasn't just some homeless girl. She was capable, and she had a drive to succeed. There were times when she doubted herself, when the old insecurities crept back in. She wasn't used to being in a place where people believed in her. But every time she faltered, Elon was there, offering a word of encouragement, reminding her of the potential he saw in her. One day, as they sat together at the office, Elon asked her how she was doing. Amelia paused for a moment before answering, her voice quieter than usual. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared that I'll mess up, scared that I'll never truly belong here." Elon looked at her with a steady gaze, the same belief in his eyes as it had been when they first met. "You will belong here. You just have to trust in yourself. You've come so far already. Don't let fear hold you back." Amelia felt something shift inside her. It wasn't a sudden transformation, but it was a shift nonetheless. She realized that she had been holding herself back all this time, afraid to take chances because she didn't believe she deserved them. But now, with Elon's support and her newfound sense of purpose, she knew she was ready to push forward. Several months passed, and Amelia grew more confident in her abilities. She took on more responsibility at work and began to contribute ideas to the team. The other employees, who had once viewed her as an outsider, now looked to her with respect. She was no longer the girl who had asked for food on the streets. She was a valuable member of the team, someone with insight and creativity to offer. One afternoon, Elon pulled her aside for a conversation. "I've been thinking about your future here," he said, his tone serious but kind. "I want to offer you something more, a position in one of my companies. You'll start in a leadership role, guiding a team. I know it's a big step, but I have complete faith in you." Amelia was taken aback. Leadership? A position of power? It seemed too big, too much for someone like her. But she also knew that she had grown in ways she never imagined. She had learned to believe in herself, to step into her power, and now she was ready for this next chapter. I don't know what to say," she whispered, her heart racing. "This is so much. I never thought I'd get this kind of opportunity." Elon smiled. "You've earned it, Amelia, and I think you'll do amazing things." Amelia's first day in her new role as a team leader was a whirlwind. She walked into the office feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. It was one thing to be given an opportunity. It was another to prove she deserved it. The morning was filled with meetings, introductions to her new team, and a lot of tasks she hadn't yet learned. But despite the overwhelming amount of information, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. There was a fire in her chest, a belief that she was capable of more than just surviving. She was now part of something bigger. As the day went on, she found herself navigating the responsibilities with a newfound sense of purpose. Her team was diverse, a mix of young professionals and seasoned veterans, but they all respected her. They saw something in her. Just as Elon had, Amelia was determined to prove herself, but self-doubt still lingered in the back of her mind. Would they see her as someone who was once homeless, who had nothing but the will to survive? Or would they see her as someone who had the ability to lead and inspire others? She spent the first few weeks immersing herself in the work, meeting with clients, attending brainstorming sessions, and offering solutions to complex problems. It wasn't easy, and there were times when she felt like an imposter, but with each task, she grew more confident. One evening, Elon invited her to dinner. It was a rare occasion, as he was always busy, but he had insisted they meet to discuss her progress. "Amelia," Elon said as they sat across from each other at a small, elegant restaurant, "I've been hearing great things about you from the team. You're doing an excellent job." Amelia flushed with pride, but she still felt a sense of unease. "Thank you, but I'm not sure I'm doing enough. There's still so much to learn, so much to prove." Elon smiled warmly. "That's the thing about growth. It's not always about being perfect. It's about pushing yourself, taking risks, and learning from your mistakes. I've seen you do that. You've come so far, Amelia. Don't sell yourself short." His words felt like a balm to the wounds of self-doubt that she carried with her. She had always felt like an outsider, like someone who didn't belong in spaces like this. But now, she was part of a company, part of something bigger, and it felt right. The months passed, and Amelia continued to rise within the company. She wasn't just a team leader anymore. She was someone people looked to for guidance, for inspiration. She was still the same person who had once lived on the streets, but now she was someone with a voice, someone who could make a difference. She had also become more comfortable with Elon. He was more than just a boss. He was a mentor, someone who genuinely cared about her success. They often had long talks about life, business, and the challenges they faced. Elon was a complex man, driven by a desire to change the world. But he was also kind-hearted and supportive of those he believed in. One day, as they were walking through the office, Elon turned to her with a thoughtful look. "I've been thinking," he said. "You've come so far, and I want to give you a platform to inspire others. I think it's time for you to share your story." Amelia blinked in surprise. "My story?" Elon nodded. "Yes. Your journey from the streets to where you are now is powerful. It can inspire others who are struggling, who feel like they don't have a way out. You have the chance to show them that anything is possible." Amelia felt her heart race. She had never thought about sharing her story. For so long, she had kept her past hidden, ashamed of the girl she used to be. But now, as she looked at Elon, she realized that her story wasn't just about surviving. It was about living, about overcoming, about changing. "I don't know where to start," she said quietly. Elon smiled gently. "Start with how you felt when you first reached out for help. Tell them about the fear, the uncertainty, but also about the hope. That's where it all begins, with hope." Amelia stood at the podium, her palms sweating as she gripped the microphone. The room was filled with employees, investors, and guests, all gathered for an annual event hosted by Elon's company. She had been invited to speak about her journey, her transformation, and the lessons she had learned along the way. The lights above her flickered slightly, and her nerves surged in her chest. She had never done anything like this before. She had never been the center of attention, never had the chance to speak publicly about the hardships she had faced. But Elon had insisted that she share her story, not just for herself, but for everyone who might be struggling to find hope. As she looked out at the crowd, her eyes landed on Elon, who stood in the back of the room with a reassuring smile on his face. It was a smile that had helped her overcome many of her fears. It reminded her that she was worthy, that her voice mattered. Taking a deep breath, Amelia began. "Good evening, everyone," she started, her voice a little shaky at first. "I'm Amelia, and I'm here to talk to you about how my life has changed, how I went from living on the streets to standing here in front of you today. I know that for many of us, life can feel like a battle, especially when we're faced with circumstances beyond our control. But I'm here to tell you that no matter how impossible it seems, things can get better." She paused for a moment, feeling the weight of the room's attention on her. Her heart was pounding, but she pushed forward. "I was homeless for a long time," she continued, her voice steadying. "I spent years on the streets, cold, hungry, and alone. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, let alone how to change my life. But one day, something happened that changed everything. I met someone who saw me, not just as a homeless girl, but as a person with potential. That someone was Elon Musk." There were murmurs in the crowd, and Amelia could feel the eyes on her even more intensely now. She knew this wasn't just any regular speech. It was a turning point in her life. Elon didn't offer me charity. He didn't pity me. What he did offer was something far more powerful: belief. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. He gave me a chance to prove that I was more than my circumstances. And with that chance, everything changed. Amelia's voice trembled as she spoke, but it wasn't from fear. It was from the emotion that had been building up inside her for years. The emotion of feeling invisible, of feeling like she didn't matter, and now realizing that she did. From that moment on, I made a choice every single day to believe in myself. It wasn't easy, and there were many times I wanted to give up. But each time I felt like quitting, I remembered what Elon said: "You're worth the risk." Those words stayed with me, and they gave me the strength to keep going. She looked out at the audience, her eyes scanning the room. Today, I stand before you not as a homeless girl, but as a woman who has a voice, a purpose, and the opportunity to change the world in my own way. I'm not special. I'm not some extraordinary person. I'm just someone who was given a chance. And if I can do it, so can you. There was a long silence in the room after she finished speaking. Amelia stood there, her chest heaving as she tried to steady her breath. She had poured her heart out, and for the first time, she felt a sense of relief. She had shared the truth of who she was, and she had embraced the vulnerability that came with it. The applause that followed was thunderous. It wasn't just polite clapping. It was a genuine expression of admiration and respect. Amelia had done something remarkable. She had shared her story, and in doing so, she had touched the hearts of everyone in that room. As the applause died down, Elon made his way to the stage and stood next to her, his hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he said, his voice low but filled with pride. "You inspired them, just like you've inspired me." Amelia smiled, tears welling in her eyes. She had never imagined that she would stand in front of so many people, telling them about her past, her struggles, and her triumphs. But here she was, and she felt like she was finally beginning to see herself as the person she had always wanted to be: strong, capable, and worthy of success. Amelia's speech had a profound impact on more people than she could have ever anticipated. Her story spread quickly throughout the company, and soon, it reached the ears of media outlets. She was invited to share her journey on podcasts, television interviews, and articles that at first, the attention made her uncomfortable. She had spent most of her life avoiding the spotlight, but she soon realized that this wasn't about her. It was about the message she carried. The message that no matter how far someone had fallen, they could rise again. That no one was beyond redemption, beyond hope, that Amelia's life had always been about surviving, just scraping by each day, hoping for a better tomorrow. But now, she was learning to live, to thrive. She was building the life she once thought was impossible. One afternoon, as she walked into the office, a young woman approached her. The woman was in her mid-20s, wearing a formal business suit and holding a folder in her hands. Amelia didn't recognize her at first, but the woman's eyes were filled with tears. "I'm sorry to interrupt," the woman said softly, her voice trembling. I just wanted to say thank you." Amelia looked at her in confusion. "For what?" The woman wiped her eyes before continuing. "I saw your story on TV. I was living on the streets too. I was about to give up. But after hearing you speak, something changed in me. I realized that I don't have to give up. I can make a new life for myself. You gave me hope." Amelia felt her throat tighten. It was overwhelming to know that her story had touched someone so deeply, that her journey had sparked a light in someone else's life. "You don't have to thank me," Amelia said softly, her voice full of emotion. "You did it. You took the first step. I'm just here to remind you that you are worth it." The woman smiled through her tears. "You'll never know how much your story saved me." Amelia hugged her tightly, the embrace full of unspoken understanding. It was a moment that validated everything she had worked for. The pain, the struggle, the sacrifices, all of it had led to this. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was making a difference. Days passed, and the ripple effect continued to grow. More and more people reached out to Amelia, sharing their own stories of hardship, of struggling to overcome obstacles, and of finding hope in unexpected places. Amelia realized that in sharing her own journey, she had become a beacon for others, a reminder that change was possible. Elon continued to support her, always encouraging her to take on new challenges, to step outside of her comfort zone. "You've got this," he would say with that same reassuring smile that had given her the strength to push forward all those months ago. She had come so far, and yet there was still so much more to accomplish. Amelia's story was just beginning. One evening, as she sat at her desk, looking over some reports, she received a call from a prominent charity organization that helped homeless people around the world. The woman on the other end of the line introduced herself as the head of the organization. "We've been following your journey, and we believe you have the potential to make a real difference in the lives of homeless people everywhere," the woman said. "We would love to collaborate with you, to help share your story and raise awareness." Amelia's heart skipped a beat. She had always wanted to give back, to help others who were struggling as she once had. She had spent so much time focusing on her own journey, but now she was being given an opportunity to help countless others. "I'd be honored," Amelia replied, her voice filled with excitement. "Let's make it happen." And so, the next chapter of Amelia's life began. With Elon's support and the power of her own story, she started working with organizations to create programs that helped homeless people find jobs, secure housing, and rebuild their lives. She worked with shelters, food banks, and advocacy groups, sharing her story of hope and resilience at every opportunity. As Amelia continued her work with the charity organizations, her influence grew, and the ripple effect she had started became a wave. More people began to see that homelessness wasn't just a problem. It was a societal issue that needed to be addressed with compassion, dignity, and long-term solutions. That Amelia's personal journey from homelessness to success became a symbol of resilience. She wasn't just a figurehead. She was on the ground, working alongside others who had faced similar struggles, showing them that their past did not define their future. One afternoon, Elon invited her to attend a meeting at his company's headquarters. It was a high-stakes meeting with investors and potential partners for a new social initiative. Amelia had been nervous at first, unsure of what to expect. But as she sat at the conference table with Elon and the others, she realized that this wasn't just a business opportunity. It was a chance to change the world. "I know you're used to working alone, Amelia," Elon said as he sat beside her, "but this project will require us to work as a team. Your story has already inspired so many, and now it's time for us to bring those people together to create something powerful." Amelia nodded, feeling a rush of emotions. She had always worked on her own, pulling herself up by her bootstraps. But now, she understood that true change required a collective effort. With Elon's backing and the help of several organizations, Amelia helped launch a nationwide campaign aimed at providing support to the homeless in innovative ways. The initiative included job training programs, affordable housing projects, and mental health support. It also sought to challenge the public's perception of homelessness, encouraging empathy and compassion rather than judgment. As the initiative gained momentum, Amelia found herself traveling around the country, meeting with community leaders, donors, and volunteers. She was invited to speak at conferences and events, sharing her vision for a world where homelessness was no longer a stigma, but a solvable problem. But despite all the success and recognition, Amelia stayed grounded. She never forgot where she came from. Every interaction she had with people, whether they were struggling or thriving, was a reminder of her roots. One day, after a particularly long meeting, Amelia sat down with Elon in a quiet corner of the office. The two of them had become close friends over the past year, and their conversations often delved into deeper topics beyond business. "I don't think I'll ever truly get used to all of this," Amelia said, her voice soft as she looked out the window at the bustling city. "The fame, the attention, it all feels so surreal." Elon leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You've earned it, Amelia. You've changed more lives than you can imagine. And it's not just about what you've done, it's about who you are. You remind people that even in the darkest moments, there's a way out." Amelia smiled, grateful for his words. But deep down, she knew that it wasn't about her anymore. It was about the people she was helping, the lives she was touching. Her own journey had come full circle. What had started as a personal struggle had evolved into a mission to change the world. Months passed, and the impact of the initiative continued to grow. Amelia became a well-known advocate for the homeless, meeting with policymakers and government leaders to push for systemic change. Her foundation had expanded, and she was able to provide grants and funding to local organizations working directly with those in need. But amidst all the professional success, Amelia found that the most rewarding moments were the quiet ones. The moments when she saw a former homeless person turn their life around, when she witnessed the joy on their faces as they found stable work, or when a family was reunited in their own home. Those were the moments that kept her going, even when the challenges seemed insurmountable.